Danke. Today I'm going to talk about Chan Buddhism, a unique part of Buddhism that has evolved with the Buddha Dharma. And it's like a fine wine that it has many flavors and undertones to it. And it is comes from, its origins come from the early Buddhist teachings. So its origins come at the same time Theravadan came into being, where the Buddha in his first teachings taught about what's called the 12 nidanas, or the 12 codependent origination principles. And the very first one is ignorance. And we understand from the ignorance, we go all the way through to birth and death. And all of these are the creations of what we see here now. Chan has a saying that is fundamental in all Buddhism. If you want to study Buddhism, you have to know that the saying in the Chan liturgy, it says, to know all the Buddhas of the past, the present, and the future, you have to perceive all Dharma Dhatu nature, all phenomena. All of this is phenomena. What's in your mind is in phenomena. What your actions are phenomena. Is created by the mind. Created by the mind. You are not mind. Your body is phenomenal. Don't take that as a compliment. Oh, you're phenomenal. You're phenomenal. You are an appearance. Not only are you an appearance, but I'm just going to throw you into the deep end of Chan. Not only are you appearance, but what you think you are and what you think is also an appearance. It too is temporary, impermanent. It arises due to causes and conditions. So if we want to practice Buddhism and we want to try to perfect this body, it's not like you're going to go to the gym and work it out and have this perfect body, or use the same principles to work out your mind and your consciousness to try to make it perfect. It isn't in this way. But taking away the idea of an ego, a personality, a life, or a being, there is something that you get back which is greater than all of that. This is from the Diamond Sutra. It says, no ego, personality, life, or being. What Buddhism gives you back, and especially Chan Buddhism, is that just this very mind that you're listening to me now, just this mind, is the Buddha mind. Apart from this mind, do not look for it anywhere else. You cannot be looking in the sky for a golden throne with a Buddha sitting there dressed in clothes from 2,500 years ago. It isn't in this way. Where you find the Buddha is in the heart. In body, speech, and mind, we demonstrate this. This is the true Chan. The Chan is something that it did use from the early practices of the Tripikaya of the Vinaya, the Nikayas, and the Abhidharma. These were monastic rules, and Nikayas were you could say equated to the Old Testament in the Bible versus New Testament as Mahayana is, and the Abhidharma, this highest Dharma. And this highest Dharma, it stands for that everything is real. So this was the first part that came through and was propagated by Theravadins, the study of the elders. And which is what Theravada means, is the study of the elders. And they wanted to distinguish it from these upstart Mahayanists that come later. And I'm not here to bash Theravada. I'm here to explain historically what was happening. And there's just as much value in the wisdom of the Nikayas, which we call the Agamas. But there was this turning of the Dharma wheel. And the turning of the Dharma wheel is something that is a significant evolution of the Dharma. I don't want to say that it's something that was a new principles, because it's based on and found within the Nikayas as well. And when we talk about the Aguttara Sutra, we talk about luminous mind. Luminous is this mind. This very mind is luminous. But we are always meditating, looking around to see if the light's shining on us. It's not in this way. This illumination is the illumination of the mind as it's clear. Some of you may be Tibetan practitioners. In Tibetan, they talk about Rigpa. So anybody know the word Rigpa? Okay. Rigpa it means clear light. And the Tibetans talk about to have this clear light in the present moment. And we'll get around to talking about the present moment and how that is interpreted. But at least we know that it is in this way. My master used to always say that you should rest the mind in the present moment. So the mind should always be resting. And he said it in this way. He was giving a lecture, and he said, before this lecture, I was studying, and then I was putting away my clothes. Each time I was resting, I'm coming here to talk to you, so I'm resting again. When I finish, I'll rest as I'm walking back. All the time, the mind is resting, and it's aware. There's this clear light, as the Tibetans say, this Rigpa, this clear light that is illuminating everything that's happening. And what is this illumination? It's causes and conditions never fail. Causes and conditions never fail. If you plant a melon seed, you will get a melon fruit. It never fails. It is just in this way. And when we see things in this way, it's wisdom, clear wisdom. We don't see it differently. I once I still know the Christian, and this Christian was trying to get somewhere and tried to start up her car. And she said, "Oh God, not now, not now, not now. I gotta get to the place I'm going. No, not now." Thank you, Jesus, thank you. And I said, no, buy a new battery. It's just this way we in Buddhism in total take responsibility for the present moment, take responsibility for the past, take responsibility for the future. All of these things were created by the mind. Whose mind? Your mind, because the consolation that you get because your ego is not real, is that every one of you right now, every single one of you has Buddha nature. the very mind that you're using is the Buddha mind. This is very important to understand. So when I'm sitting here and looking out, I don't see you. I see Buddhas. I see the potentiality that one day that you will cast off the illusion of a separate life and being, and you will take on your original identity. It's like in the comics, no, you're walking around like Clark Kent. I don't know if you know who Clark Kent is. It's the name that Superman uses to hide his true identity. But his true identity is Superman. Your true identity is Buddha. You may feel, I don't feel like a Buddha. I feel miserable. That's your ego talking. Just set the ego aside. Our whole practice is on the illumination of the mind, illumination of wisdom. So the first thing we have to do is understand just this very mind is the Buddha mind. And this permeates the practice of Chan. It is something that we see. And even within Chan, there are two major divisions in terms of it, but I'm getting a little bit ahead. And in this, we also know that, like this wine, it's also infused with certain Mahayana principles. One of them is the Pure Land practice. So the Pure Land practice actually was the one that actually had the greatest popularity in China. Initially, there was only just a little small pocket in China of this Mahayana, as we know it in terms of the practice of wisdom, and there was this practice of Pure Land that was all over. Why? Because Pure Land made sense to people. Not only that, but if you followed the Amitaya Sutras, the Amitabha Sutras, you would see that Amitabha was saying, if you say my name sincerely, even just 10 times, you'll be reborn in the Pure Land. So people went, really? Just 10 times? And they go, I'm in. But at least they had something. There was some hope, some faith. That was easy to get faith in because they're going, I'm Pure Land bound. And so it was something very easy to present to the populace, not just the Kazakhnati scholars that were poring over other sutras, but little by little, then the Mahayana Sutras, this turning of the Dharma wheel came. And the turning of the Dharma wheel was that they said, no, it's not real, it's empty. And you go, well, that clears up everything. No, right? I mean, if I'd ask you to define emptiness here, I think a few of you might take a crack at it, but then you just go, I give up. Because emptiness can't be known. And it's just something that we have to be careful, because if we lean too much towards emptiness, we fall into nihilistic. And nothing matters. Why should I even be practicing? Nothing matters. There's nothing there. There's no place to go to. There's nothing. It's just right now, and then it's poof, gone. Or we go the other way into everything is real. And if everything is real, how can you practice? You can never change, because if everything's real, even your ignorance is real, and it will not change. It's not what the Buddha taught. What the Buddha taught was all of this comes from ignorance, and all of these things all the way through birth and death, the 12 nidanas, come from this what's called nescient entrenchment, which is this entrenched ignorance. This comes from the Queen Sharmali Devi's Lion's Roar Sutra. And this is sutras a little bit further advanced than the Wisdom Sutras. It is a Tathagata Sutra, that's showing this is Buddha nature. And in Buddha nature, it's showing this and saying, this is what's preventing the mind from realizing Buddha nature, because it's attaching to a self. When we understand this pretty profound teachings, we have a chance, because we can see, we can change our faith to be able to say, just this mind is the Buddha mind. I believe that. I am no different than the Buddha. So long as the mind says that, and it's not Gilbert that's saying that. If Gilbert thinks he's the Buddha, he'll be wanting to cut in line everywhere, get things for free or whatever. It's ignorance. But just this mind, being the Buddha mind, there's liberation there. It's very funny, because the Theravada said, liberation at the palm of your hand. Quite so. Liberation at the palm of your hand. Sudden illumination. This sudden illumination is that just this mind is the Buddha mind. So I'm going to be hitting you with this as a refrain. Just keep going and going until it kind of comes in. There are three types of teachings. One is Shravaka, sound hearers, and that's someone that's listening to the Dharma and just listening to it. The other is metaphysical, which leans towards the wisdom of the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutras and is understanding it on a deeper level. The third level is esoteric. And esoteric is that which cannot be explained by words and phrases. If I ask you to define infinite, how could you explain it? It just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And that's about as far as you could get. Or if I asked you to explain thusness, tathagata, thusness, what does thusness mean? What's thus? The reason the ancients use that term thus is because it cannot be defined. It cannot be defined. Now again, I was going to give you an ABCs class, but I decided to be a little bit naughty and take you right down into the deep, profound Prajnaparamita. So there was one time when in the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra, which means the highest, deepest wisdom sutra, and that sutra can be as short as the Heart Sutra, and it can be as long as 100,000 lines. How many of you have read the Heart Sutra? Raise your hand. Okay, most of you, so that's good. So you know, can you come up here and explain it in great detail? It's different than you think it is. It really is different. And when you understand it, you run right into it. And Sariputra in that sutra was asking Manjusri, he said, how do you practice the inconceivable? If it's inconceivable, how do you practice it? How would you practice something that you can't even know? I'm going to tell you, and it better knock your socks off. Seriously. If you listen to this carefully, it should knock your socks off. He asked him, how do you practice the inconceivable? Because how would you know you're practicing the inconceivable? Manjusri said, I am the inconceivable. He doesn't practice it. That's secondary level practice according to the sutras. And according to the Chan treatises, That's second level practice. It's the practice of building a staircase to heaven and trying to perfect this body and clean it up and knock off all of the ignorance off of it. And you still got what we call, or what the ancients called, a red meatball. You can't turn that into a diamond. The Chan practice, and everybody thinks, especially in California where I come, we call it la la land. You just sit and go, and you can commune with God or somebody or the Buddha if you get enough ums in. It isn't in this way. You are the Buddha already. That's why that's a correct statement. Sariputra said to him, how do you get over all these obstructions that you have? How do you do that? And he said, I am the unobstructed. This is your nature. This is your Buddha nature. This is Chan. Chan just didn't come up like some turnip that came up in the field. It was brought in from all of the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, brought in all the way from Theravada, all the things that he was saying. And it came through one Abhidharma, and then it came through Yogacara. How many of you know Yogacara, know of it? Raise your hand. Okay, some of you are kind of like, I kind of heard the name once, but it's okay. The Yogacara school, consciousness only or mind only school. It's a great school. And if you look at the sutras, you'll see Yogacara all over the place. It's talking about the eighth consciousness, right? And the sense consciousness, and that consciousness brings it all together, and then you have this operating consciousness, and then the eighth consciousness is above. That school then sees things and says they're not real, they're just consciousness. But then if you say, and it's just consciousness, is that leaning this way where one is leaning towards reality and one's leaning towards an impermanence of everything. And then came the Madhyamaka school. How many have heard of the Madhyamaka school? He's still hanging in there. A few dropped off, but that's okay. Madhyamaka school, it's called the middle way. Its main proponent was Nagarjuna. The main proponent of the Abhidharma was Sariputra. Nagarjuna from the Madhyamaka school, this middle way, advanced two truths, because this will help you understand what's happening. His first truth is apparent reality. This is all here. It's real, with quotation marks around it. It's real, but it is a conceptual reality. Who is conceiving of this reality? Anybody? I'll give you a hint. If I go like this, that means mind. Mind. Mind is conceiving, how could it not conceive of it? It created it. This conceptual reality, it's apparent reality. Why can't you peel it off? Because where are you going to put it? You're going to peel it off of mind, and then what are you going to do? You just go, yeah, where do I throw this? There's no place to throw it. It belongs to mind, created by mind, made by the very fabric of mind. That's what all this is around us. Just like this is woven, you're woven too. Some of you a little bit more shabbier than others, but it's okay. It's in accordance with causes and conditions. You appear the way you are, precisely how you should appear. Some of you listen, some of you drowsy, but if you stay awake, you'll see this is how things are. And when we understand that, then we understand the other part, the other reality, which is the absolute. The absolute is the mind which is unhindered, unobstructed by any phenomena. When it's unhindered, unobstructed by any phenomena, then it sees clearly. But then we take away even all of that and say, all of the phenomena is illusory, including all of you. All of you are illusory. So, in the Chan school, in accordance with Mahayana, there is a strong interest in delivering sentient beings, such as you. And I'm just kind of wondering, have any of you ever never suffered in your life? Have you had up to this moment the most perfect life that you never suffered, never had a ingrown toenail, or a pimple, or an argument, or a stomach ache? Anybody? So, sentient beings. And the interest in the mind, the heart of mind, is to take away the suffering. So what I'm doing now is I'm kind of reverse engineering this, and I'm going to end up going back to the beginning again. So I'll show you when we get there. But I'm starting from the difficult part and kind of working our way back into this to show you how Chan works and what Chan is. Chan is not just sitting there like numbly with your legs crossed and hoping the boogeyman goes away. You're not just sitting there. That Master Sheng, my master, used to say, did you come to the retreats to practice your legs, or did you come to the retreats to practice the Dharma? Oh, we're practicing, the Dharma. Oh, yes. But the people were there. Some people, they sit like stone lions in the retreat. But Master Sheng would slowly walk behind everybody. And if you do this, and if you have a sensitivity, you can walk behind a person and they're there and they're not moving at all. And you can just feel kind of a vibration like, And other people have been sitting there through 2 periods, like a stone lion, not moving at all, not even one this, just like that. And when you stand behind them, they sound like this. And you just like listen to them and okay, they're practicing their legs. So they've trained the body to just sit still. I can do that with dogs in like 5 minutes. Sit, don't move. No. Once I had this one Airedale, and I put her on a tree stump to practice, jump up on the stump, sit there. And then I got a phone call, so I ran inside the house and was talking for a long time. And then I went back out, and she was still on the tree stump, sitting there. And I felt so bad because I had left her there, but she just sat there. So if she can do that, humans can do it too. That's not a big achievement, okay? You could sit there, so what? The difference is that, can you sit and keep your method for a half an hour? We're kind of easing into the truth of all of this, okay? Any of you sat holding your method without any other thought coming in for a half an hour? Raise your hand. I'll give you the prize. Okay. We go down to 20 minutes. We go down to 10 minutes. If you're really, really honest, what's the maximum time you've had sitting, holding your method without another thought arising in the mind? Stefan?
Hard to guess the time. I would guess maybe 5 minutes that it's really
5 minutes.
without anything. Just
You sit for 5 minutes. I have no thoughts. I'm so damned enlightened. Because you go, and thank you for your honest thing, because it's this way. But remember what I've said, causes and conditions never fail. So the next time you go on the cushion, do you think you're going to be able to sit for 30 minutes or back to the 5 minutes? What did you plant in your practice? 5 minutes, that's all you get before the thoughts come in. Why would you hope if you planted an onion seed, you're going to get a strawberry? They don't have seeds, right? They have a sprout. Anyway, it's not possible because causes and conditions are impeccable. They're precisely this way. So if you want to practice, you have to know mind. You have to know how mind works. If you don't know how mind works, not your consciousness, but mind. If you know how mind works, it works. You can sit there and just sit, and I will show you how to do that in a moment. I'm not just going to come in here and flog you and then leave and say, too bad for you guys. See you in the next lifetime. It isn't in this way. I'm here to kind of let you know about this, but I'm not giving you any place where you can park yourself in all of this. So we're moving through it fairly quickly, but it is in this way that we begin to see what the practice is. What are you trying to do when you're sitting on a cushion? It doesn't matter what type of Buddhist you are. What is the goal? What are you doing there on that cushion? You need to know that. You really need to know that. If you don't, then you'll get there, but it will be like the long way around. So you have to imagine colors, because all I have is a black pen, but that's okay. When we are practicing, and this is my fears, the pen doesn't have any ink. So imagine, if you have another one, that would be good. Otherwise, I'll pull my pen out and we'll see if it's impermanent or not. So when you're sitting, you have a person here looking at this mountain. And when they have this, you can't break through. We'll try another one. It's green. Well, we have a green mountain. Yay, it works. Good. All right. And you're green too. You just started practicing. And you can't break through. You want things to happen to you. You want to become illuminated. Oh, look at, they pulled out all of the colors. You guys are holding out on me. I'm so happy they gave me green pens and black pens and one red pen, so that's okay. You can't do this. So you think to get around that, you have to sit and sit and sit, and then you have to walk around the mountain. That's going to take you a long time to get around the mountain. This is your obstructions. But what did Manjusri say? I am the unobstructed. I am the unobstructed. Boom. I can see it's going to be one of those nights. Did anybody try these things out ever? boom, and it's gone. It's right there in front of you. It's right there in front of you. It's just like Bai Zong when Matsu twisted his nose. And then he said, it wasn't until today I realized my nostrils pointed downwards. It was right there, right at the tip of his nose all the time. He just didn't see it. But in that moment, he realized mine, unobstructed. Because he is the infinite. He's the infinite. You are the infinite, but you act like some suffering person here. Now, when we say, I'm afraid to even touch this eraser, we're going to deliver innumerable sentient beings. This is one of the 4 great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to practice limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Except the first one of that, and when they deleted, which was really important, you should have said, why'd you delete that? That's important. And once somebody at a temple, the head monastic was telling me, we're trying to cut down the liturgy, and they have this where they say the 4 great vows, and it says, I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings, and this next one adds of self-nature to all of the 4. And we're thinking of just cutting out the self-nature one because it's repetitious. I said, no, it's not repetitious. It is representing bringing everything back to the Tathagata Garbha. You can't do that because it will mislead people into thinking that there's somebody that's going to be delivered. Self-nature is your self-nature. Your self-nature is Buddha nature. Your Buddha nature is Buddha. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings of self-nature, of my own creation. And so when we see that in that way, we realize that we're delivering sentient beings of an illusory nature. And you go, oh, I understand that. Huh? Can you understand that? We're delivering sentient beings of an illusory nature because they're all created by the mind. But this gets us back to the idea of between the Abhidharma school, everything is real, Yogacara school, everything is consciousness or mind only, and the Madhyamaka school that has these 2 truths. And when we have these 2 truths and we see the things in this way, we understand that all these appearances are projected on mind. If you look at any of the Mahayana sutras, the ones that are called Vyapula sutras, Vyapula means that they embody the entire Buddha Dharma. Practicing those seriously would lead to an illumination of the mind. They all say that all of these things are created by the mind. They're just simply projections on the mind. So that's where you're appearing. You're a projection. And because let's use this example so you have an idea. Let's say I went, and now it's 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and I have a picture of a person, and I put it in a slide projector and tilt the slide projector up towards the sky, and I turn on the projector. Could you see the picture of the person, the slide of the person? Could you see it? No, you can't see it. Because if it goes to limitless space, there's nothing that it is projected on. Everything that appears is a projection. And Your name? Okay, right here. We reserve that for you.
Cheers, I appreciate it.
Good. So everything is a projection. We don't understand that. We don't understand that. But like, let's see if you have picture a red apple in your mind. Can you see it? Anybody can't see the red apple? Actually, some people I found out can't because they have aphasia and their mind cannot allow them to project images in that way. But in any case, but most people can see the red apple. Where is it projected on? Where is it? Is it between your two ears? Where is it projected on? Once I told this to somebody that was just curious about Buddha Dharma, and I left her with that. And then the next time I saw her, she was cursing me. I'm saying, why? Where is that red apple projected on? I have to know where it's projected on. So she was seriously probing that and didn't know. In your own mind, in mind, it's projected. It is in this way. Who sees this projection? You? Do you see it? Or does mind see it? You cannot confuse consciousness with mind. The sutras say that sages return consciousness to mind. Sages return consciousness to mind. Fools turn mind into consciousness. But it can't be that way. It can't. If mind is that and mind is unchangeable, if mind is real, then you go to the ice cream store. You have to be very, very careful first time going into the ice cream store. What flavor would you like? I'll take vanilla. Okay, vanilla coming up. No, I changed my mind. I saw that strawberry parfait one right there. Looks very delicious. I'll have that. Sorry. What do you mean sorry? You can't change your mind. It's reality. Your vanilla ice cream is what you get for the rest of infinity. It doesn't work that way. That's not your mind. That's consciousness. It would be such a foolish store, right? And a foolish person going in. Fools turn mind into consciousness. But it isn't in this way. There's not a reality there because it would never change. So when we see things and we understand these very deeply and we reverse engineer Chan, reverse engineer the 12 nidanas, it's the same thing. It's all there coming into being. But what I'm doing is giving you a heavy dose of Buddha Dharma that you normally don't hear. It's like, well, do you know it? Maybe. What do you mean? What is it? I'm not going to tell you if you don't know it. And people go around talking like this. Foolish nonsense. Why don't you deserve to know the truth? Why don't you deserve to do this? You can do this. You've been practicing half your life. She's been practicing for 20 years or more. Give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay. So why wouldn't she know it? Why don't you think it's time to let them know what mind is? What do you think? Shouldn't you know? Shh, don't tell them. Don't tell them. They're going to be afraid. They're going to be confused. Why not tell them? Why shouldn't you know? The shortcut. How many of you want to go all the way around the mountain? How many lifetimes will it take you? One Bodhisattva, it took him 5 kalpas. Now you have to think about how long 5 kalpas are. That's a long time. you guys don't have Disneylands here, you know. But a kalpa is equal to standing in line for one popular ride. 5 kalpas is a long time. When he became enlightened, he said, had I known the shortcut, I would have taken it. I wouldn't have wasted 5 kalpas of time. So time is a very relative thing. And if you don't like your mother-in-law and you're in a car with her, that's at least 20 kalpas. So, sorry if there's any mother-in-laws in here that I insulted. But it's something that you have to understand. But let's flip it for a moment, because the sutras also said that one bodhisattva snapped his fingers and 5 kalpas went by. How can that be? How can that be? How can they manipulate time? We're on this pebble in space, rotating around a pebble that's on fire. Do you think that's going to last forever? And then that's how we set our watches. Take your watch to Alpha Centauri, the closest star, and see if that applies. Wow, it's late here. You know, it's just the beginning. How long's the beginning? For 5 billion years. Huh? Of course. We're still moving out. We haven't even stopped yet. It's all relative. We see things and we understand how mind works. We still don't know mind yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay? About now, you're probably thinking, Gilbert, he's somewhat unusual of a lecturer. But that's okay. Just hang in there with me. It will make sense. Now, when we look at how we meditate, I will show you how you meditate, not how you should meditate. So, I got tricked. Let's change things up. This is your method. And then there's another, let's say, semicircle. And then there's you that you're meditating. And you're watching the method. Your eye is on the method. I kind of made him look like Gautama before he stopped starving himself. Okay, better. Anyway, this is how you think you're doing it. You're watching the method, right? You are watching that. Keep your eye on that method. Keep your eye on that method. He's not real. He's out of bounds. This is not possible. It's only possible. It's like a mathematics professor saying, no, the way you have this equation is not right. It cannot be that way. This one here, the method is a projection, but so too is this one that's meditating is also a projection. They're being projected on the Dharmakaya, the mind ground, or mind itself. Where did you see the apple on the Dharmakaya? The projection, the noumenon, the basis or matrix of mind is where it's projected on. It has to have something to be projected on. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. It would be nihilistic. There would be no person projected into the sky, but it's projected in mind. So this person that's sitting there trying to become enlightened is an illusion. It's an illusory sentient being. Your mind that's there, it's real. It hasn't changed. It's not your consciousness, which you take to be your mind. Your actual mind, the awareness of your mind, that which is listening to me right now, is there. But then you throw in this ego, and then the ego thinks it's out here, but it's not. It's also a projection. You can't lift yourself off of mind. It's not possible. At least so far as I've taught this and asked people to lift themselves off mind, no one's been able to do it. Okay. So if you could get this lifetime for free. But it isn't in this way. This is a projection looking at a projection. What is looking at this then is this. It is mind, the mind's own eye. Mind itself, these are not separate, they're not dual. It is mind knowing mind. And mind is looking at the method. This fellow here is not even there. He keeps coming in and saying, what time is it? I'm hungry, my legs hurt. You know, that person next to me passed gas. Whatever it is, anything to get you off the method. And it's coming in, but if you simply, when you sit, this is it, the payoff. When you sit and meditate, you let the mind sit. You give the mind to the method. You're simply, mind is looking into mind, because this too is mind. These are the appearances in mind. These are not two. They're not even one. It's where the one returns to. This is how you meditate. Mind is meditating. If you sit there and indulge yourself with all of these notions of self that I'm hurting, I'm this, I'm that, whatever it is, then you will not do it right. Thoughts can come, and quite so, as we begin to do this, you will actually see more thoughts than when you're doing it the other way, because this is just blocking the thought. The ego is just blocking the thought because it's in the way. So if you looked at this from the side, I'd have better luck with a block of sandpaper, but all right. So if you're looking at it like this way here, when you have the ego there, and then you can't see the method that well because the ego's in the way. Because you're looking at the ego. The ego's filtering everything. So the method is, there could be something here, a money issue, a house issue, a love issue, and the mind will be, it's even cracked. It could be coming up, and the mind is looking at all these. When we sit with this side, all of these things will appear, but they're just going to be like a panorama, just floating by. They just float by. You don't have to pay attention to them. Why? You put them there. The mind put them there. It's created by the mind. Why wouldn't they be there? If you're working and you have thoughts of work, that's natural. If you have thoughts of getting a new car, it's natural. A house, a problem, whatever, you put all those things into mind. Why do you think that simply by sitting and meditating, they're going to go away? There's no magical incantation that makes them go away. They're naturally appearing. I vow to cut off endless vexations of self-nature. They're all created in the mind. So let them go by. What does that mean? What's happening in the mind that enables that to get rid of this guy here And he's no longer relegated to being in front of you. He's over here floating around. He's just another so-called obstruction that really isn't an obstruction. You see clear through to the method. The method is there. It's a repeating thought. And as a repeating thought, it is just in this way. You just keep it there as your, how would you say it? Your constant in the mind, even though it's an illusory constant, so long as your mind is on the method, you're not entertaining these other thoughts. The moment the mind's eye begins to look at one of these thoughts, then it's off. It won't work. Because it starts doing this. And then what will happen is you start thinking of your love life or lack thereof, and it takes center stage. That's all you see. Naturally, because you're giving it mind attention. You have to practice in a way not to give any of these thoughts center stage or mind attention. They can float by as much as you want, let them go by. You are aware of each and every one of them. You don't try to repel them out of mind. You don't try to push them, you don't do anything. It's just you see there's clouds in the sky, but today there's no clouds. How did that happen? Causes and conditions, but you have faith that someday it's going to be clear. And so it's clear. And when it's clear, then the method will be precisely where it should be, in its place.
I don't know if you.
That works, but I can only pay you $10.50 an hour. Thank you. Be spraying all the time. So when we see this and when we do it, the only problem with that is, oh, it still works. Good. It works even better. Now I'm back to the same suffering. All right. Then it works. So this is to know what you're doing on the cushion. You have no role there. Get the frigs off the cushion. Stop being there. Mind is simply resting in the present moment, looking at the method. There's a fusion there. But it is how we practice. If you can do this, it makes sense, because it's the only thing that mind does is mind looking at mind. And then all of a sudden, all of this, it's like, which side do I use? All right. So if you had a mirror and you had another mirror and they're looking at each other, so they would be like this, and they're looking at each other. Can you picture that? Two mirrors. What would they see? What would be there? Would you know? Would you know what's there between those two mirrors? What do you mean you don't know? So then you go, what's in there? Oh my God, my face goes on for infinite. That's not your mind. That's not your face. This is your original face. Well, then what is it? Don't do that. Don't do that. Why? Because you can't see it. It's inconceivable. I would imagine two mirrors together would reflect the infinite. But we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know that for sure because we can't. It's above our pay grade. We're just a projection. We don't own the theater. We don't own the screen. The screen owns us. The screen creates us. It determines whether we're going to appear or not. So when we turn the mind's eye inward, this is turning the mind's eye inward, then everything becomes clear. In terms of how one practices. This is truly sitting in meditation, allowing the mind to sit. So when the mind sits, it's mind looking at mind. So what would the mind see? Infinite. It's infinite. Even that M that's there would look like this to the infinite. It's just that. When you understand that, then you know how to meditate in the first level, the best way to practice, unless you want to go all the way around the mountain. That is 5 kalpas worth, okay, give or take a few million years. Who's counting, right? But if you do it right, it will work. And when you sit, you could sit and your mind will not be disturbed. So long as you practice sincerely and don't attach to the thoughts that are coming by. They will titillate you to death, literally to death. You know, the love interest, the money problem, the house, you know, going to, you guys don't have any beaches around here, going to the mountains, you know, that's a pretty easy one, right? But all these things, they you know, just grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. But it's like what one sutra said, it's like grabbing sea foam in the ocean. It cannot support you. And you're just grabbing and grabbing. Why? Because you are not the mind. You're only real in terms of being an appearance on mind, a projection. So that's all you are. But it is the mind that is projecting it on there in accordance with causes and conditions. So the final part of this, as I promised you I was going to deconstruct that, so then you know the Heart Sutra. So as I recall, most of you, at least 90% of you, know the Heart Sutra or have read it. And in this Heart Sutra, what it's doing is it's negating the Theravadan idea of everything is real. No, Sariputra, form is not other than emptiness. Emptiness is not other than form. It's not real. And who's saying that? Avalokitesvara, Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. Why is Kuan Yin Bodhisattva saying this to Sariputra? Because Sariputra was the proponent of the Abhidharma. And so that contention was everything is real. And so, so he's saying it can't be real, it has to be empty. Being empty doesn't negate it as not appearing. The Yogacara says everything's consciousness. The Madhyamaka school, and all these, by the way, were all pouring into Chan and presenting what the Chan masters were presenting of Ekayana, just mind. But when we get to that point, we understand that, then we understand that if everything's empty, the 5 skandha, who can tell me the 5 skandha?
Form, feeling, perception, and 2 more.
Okay, form, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness. But perception's there. So is perception real or not real, or is it empty? So they're saying it's empty, but when you go back up to the first line, it says, when the great Avalokitesvara was coursing through the deep paramita, he perceived all 5 skandha are empty. And you go, well, wait a minute. Didn't he just say, 3 lines later, that all 5 skandha are empty? So what perception is he using? Quite so. He is using Buddha mind perception, this total awareness that's there. It is mind itself. Mind has this ability to have this kind of an awareness. Even the Theravadins, when you get to the fourth jhana of upika, then everything's in a state of equanimity or equipoise. Everything has this equal value. When we use this, then we understand that the mind is just settled. It is the mind that's resting, that's aware of everything. It doesn't mean that it closes its eyes, so I don't want to see it. It naturally sees everything. And in seeing it, then it understands these things are empty. But the purpose of this that we have, instead of Manjusri, since this is a wisdom sutra, why is Kuan Yin there? Kuan Yin is there because in this, the product of Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi, and you go, I've heard that word before sometimes, right? Did you ever bother to Google it? Anyatara Sambodhi. What does that mean? I don't know. It just sounds cool at the end of the Heart Sutra. It's Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi. It'll take you 6 months to learn how to pronounce it, but afterwards, then you can say it to people. No one knows what the hell you're talking about. So when you understand the product of that is compassion. This is the middle way. The Buddhists could say, these clowns, these fools that are just appearances, they're non-existent. Why pay attention to them? No, because it matters. Why? Because they are present in the body of the Buddha. They're present in that way. So if you were to have an illusory splinter in your big toe, every time you walk, you would know it's there. So what would you do? You'd pull it out, right? Even though it's illusory, it still bugs you. So you'd pull it out. And the hand doesn't go, hey, that has nothing to do with me. If I have a splinter, I'll pull it out myself. And the other hand says, same thing, ditto, I don't need to pull it out. No, the whole body has an interest, a karuna, in taking that splinter out, even though it's non-existent. But this is a part that's inconceivable. You have to practice to the point of understanding this, that mind will do this. This is the nature of the Dharmakaya. So when we understand how mind works, then we can practice. We can practice well. We understand what we're doing on the cushion. If you really don't understand what you're doing on the cushion, why are you sitting on it? You should understand what you're doing on the cushion. You're just going, I want to become enlightened, I want to become enlightened, I want to become enlightened. Click, click, ding. No, food first. Take a rest. I'll come back to enlightenment afterwards. No, it isn't in this way. You have to sincerely want to practice. You have to sincerely keep your mind rested all that time. Causes and conditions never fail. If you sit and you just stretch it out and you can get out to 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour, you can do it. You can do it. What's keeping you from doing it? Because you're too lazy. Somebody asked Han Shan about that and said, what about those people, all the young people now, they're saying that they can't do it. It's too much for them. He says, all the more so they should practice harder. You want to do it, you have to put the effort in. If you put the effort in, I guarantee you it will pay off. I guarantee you. Again, Gilbert's lifetime guarantee. If I'm wrong, you can come back again. Okay? It's a bonded guarantee. So you will come back. I can't guarantee what you're going to be, but you will come back. Okay, so that's probably Chan in a nutshell. And you go, what? I know I went through a lot of things, but what I wanted to do was give you the spirit of Chan. I cannot go through all the theories and everything else in an hour's worth of time. It's just not possible. But what I can do is give you food for thought, and food, more so food for contemplation. To think about the things that I was saying, try to put them in your mind, try to see it. And then some of you are going to a retreat. When you go to the retreat, apply them. When you're walking out of here, apply them. You're walking. Everything in body, speech, and mind, what are you doing? From this moment on, understand that everything has consequences. Whatever you're thinking, whatever you're doing, whatever you're speaking has consequences. So you try to make the best of it. With this group here, I had written a very long, fancy lecture, and I got through one scroll before we went off the rails. But it was to your benefit, because it is in this way when you understand this, it's not here for me to give you all the answers as much as for you to know where to search and to understand who's responsible for all of this is not the self. It's mind. Mind set that in motion. But the good thing about that is mind can rectify it. The ego can't do it because the ego is full of vexations and discriminations and desires. It's not going to get there. But the mind can do it. It just illuminates what's happening. The Heart Sutra, the payoff on the Heart Sutra is the compassion that the mind is interested in removing the suffering and removing these illusions. Mind will reward mind, because that's what it's doing. It's taking this illusory splinter out of the Dharmakaya, the body of the Buddha. When we begin to see this, this is what we call right view. Right view is right view Chan, how mind works. That's why I have an online group called Mindwork. Pretty simple, and you're all welcome to join it. It's free, so you just have to pay for the electricity. But in any case, it's free, and you can go there, ask your questions, read a lot about mind work. I also have a Zoom class, but those classes are like 2 a.m. in the morning, so I don't think too many of you are going to tough it out. But you can catch them on YouTube. So I've got about now close to 300 Zooms, lectures there. And if you listen to them, you're going to get closer and closer to it, because I speak about mind work. Sometimes they're Chan 101, 0.1, and sometimes they're 501, much deeper and profound. So it just depends on, you can search there and find the easy ones or find the profound. If you are so adventurous to drop into the deep end, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of disappearing. I haven't had any student yet disappear on their cushion. Nor so far, I've never had a student die on their cushion. Egos, yes, but the students, no. The bodies are still pumping blood, but they're not pumping out garbage anymore. So it's not bad, okay? You can ask, Esther's in the back there, and you can get the information about those classes if you're interested. It's well worth it if some of this kind of stuck to you or made you think about it, because if you're meditators, it's best to know the shortcut. The shortcut is not something I made up. It's in the sutras. It's in the treatises. Huineng, his concept of what's called subitism, or sudden illumination, that's precisely what it was. Is this sudden illumination of mind. and one sees, oh, this is how it works. It's very simple. If one practices sincerely, it will come to you. It will be that way. So anyway, I know I went through whirlwind style very quickly, but I wanted to put enough into you to give you food for thought. It isn't enough to have you all become enlightened. If I could do that in an hour, I wouldn't be here. I would be in California selling it for $10,000 a pop. But you have to work and do it. I can tell you how to farm, but you're going to have to plant the seeds yourself. Okay, so that's the end of my speech, and I will take questions. Thank you very much for listening. You should have some questions. Nobody. Okay.
In these last years, I perceived that I was less and less interested in objects while sitting on my cushion. But I'm not so much. I think I lost a bit of clarity doing that. So, what would you advise me?
It's very interesting because sometimes we can self-medicate the self and just put it in a comatose state. Master Sheng said that it was entering the devil's cave. You're not going to see the devil there, okay? Don't worry about that. But what you see is deadness. You get to the point where the mind, the samadhi is there, but it's a dead samadhi. This is a good question that you asked. No, it reflects what your level is and reflects, what I know about helping people. You can go back to it, take inspiration of what I talked about. This mind is a full mind of awareness. It is not in a dead state. It's not sleeping. It is vibrant and alive and alert and aware. It is aware of all the thoughts coming up, so we don't try to squeeze them out, and you're going, you need to talk about the bill, and then you're in a dead state. You killed off the thoughts, but you killed off your practice. So instead of doing that, what you do is you just let them pass by. They just pass by. You know that, but you don't have to do anything about that one. You can come back again. What part of not paying that bill are you not listening to? It just goes by and just keeps going by until finally it dissipates. We understand that because those thoughts are there naturally because you put them there. If you have thoughts of work, that's natural, right? But don't pay attention to those thoughts of work. And for goodness sake, don't start working in your meditation. You're not getting paid. There's no overtime for you trying to solve your work problems or your problem. The thing is, let them go. Whatever things arise, and there's going to be more of them actually than what you normally see, because normally you're sitting with an obstructed mind, so it restricts the amount of flow. When you let that go, everybody comes out, all of them, not just thoughts, but ideas of thoughts. I use this kind of an analogy. When you're sitting there and meditating with the idea of the self, it's like you poured in a clear glass a can of Coca-Cola. And so you pour it like this, and you look down. What do you see when you just poured it? Bubbles, right? A lot of bubbles on the surface. Imagine that you took 7-Up, okay, or whatever you call 7-Up here, Sprite, or some Swiss name, clear soda, and you pour it into the glass. And then you look down from the from the top. What do you see? You see all the way down to the bottom, there's even more bubbles. And the potential of bubbles that are percolating at the bottom of the glass. There's more than in the Coke, because the Coke, you only see the surface ones. But when your mind is illuminated, it can see the thoughts all the way down to where they originate in mind. And there's so many of them there. But it's okay, because you're not there to individually pop every bubble. You just let them percolate up, and then they dissipate by themselves. This is the practice. Be patient. And it's vibrant. Keep your mind vibrant. Don't let it fall into a dull sense when you're walking around. Keep that awareness that all the time. There's a difference when one uses the mind that's turned inward. Wherever you're at, whatever you're walking, whatever you're doing, you're aware of everything around you. I can be talking to you and I can see the trains going this way, going that way, the hum of the air conditioner or the fan, the sounds of you that are rustling around, even your eyelids snapping shut. The mind is aware of all of that without any kind of obstruction of my mind or my mouth going up and down. It's just that way. So this is awareness of the mind. Be aware all the time. You'll make less mistakes through body, speech, and mind. Always be aware of what's going into body, speech, and mind. If you are angry at people, or you're crossing and somebody beeps at you and you give them an Italian salute, or hey, that's going to have a certain effect. I'm keeping it very clean, and but it will have an effect in your mind, in the body, and in your speech. So everything is that way. The next time, maybe you even see somebody that looks like that driver, you'll have the same feeling for that driver. We're constantly putting these things into mind. Let go. Let go. Fill the mind with compassion. I guarantee you it changes things so amazingly. Okay? And any other questions? You should have questions. No, it was like a good sleep. You should have. This is like, you all know, it must have been that you all know this, right? You know it? Did anybody learn anything tonight? It's different. It's different. In any type of practice, even if you're a Christian or anything else, it's still useful for you. It's just the way everything works. If we don't know how it works, how do we expect that we're going to fix it? We have, if you're going to be a computer repair person, you want to start a business to be a computer repair person, what is the first thing that you have to do? This is not hard. Let's say you're going to start up a thing. Gilbert Tech. I fix everything. What would I have to know about computers or the business? How they work. You have to know how they work. You can't go somewhere and they go, what's wrong with my computer? It's got a blue screen and it's making a sound. What does that mean? I don't know. I never learned how to fix a computer. What are you doing on the cushion? You're just kind of messing around with it. But if you know how the mind works, then you got a chance. You can flush the ego out of the bushes. now you have a fair fight. Because the ego's not hiding. It's right out there where you can see it. You have a choice to have it come back around and put its arm around you and say, Gilbert, you're doing a really good job. You just got rid of that thought over there. Or you can say, you're a thought too. And just rest in the mind. Then it works. The reason I present Chan this way is because a lot of times people think that Chan is just sitting there kind of contemplating your navel and not really doing anything. But there's work to do on the cushion. You have to rest. When you rest and you have the foundation, the sixth patriarch, Hui Ning, his sutra is called the Platform Sutra. It's called that because it serves as a platform for you to do your true practice, which is mind. When one is engaged in mind, there's no thought. There's no conceptions that are there. But one has to know that to be able to do it. It's like you climbing on the trains. You don't climb on any train. Why are you climbing on a train? Because it's going to take me. But do you know where it's taking you to? I don't know. I never bothered to read the map. When you understand this, then you know where it's going to take you to. You have the faith that it will take you in the proper way. Okay? So, nobody has any questions. This is a very interesting group. This is the only group that's only had one person ask a question.
I told you this afternoon, there are no questions here.
She told me about you guys. I said, how do Germans do this? So you can blame Hildy. It's created by her mind. She says, she said that Germans don't ask questions. Or Germans or Swiss don't ask questions. So I don't want to blame the Germans, but you're here too. So in disguise, but you know who you are. But Swiss don't ask questions. They don't want to be called upon. But you should have questions. This is a very rare opportunity for you to ask questions about the practice or about Buddhism or your understanding of the Buddhism and comparing it to other perspectives on Buddhism. But yeah, you're right. It's just like no questions, right? You understood this 100%. Look at that. Not only are they reluctant, but they're eloquently reluctant. So, all right. Well, that's it. Then normally I'll spend 45 minutes to an hour answering questions because that's what comes out of it. But that's okay. Yes. Michael, yes.
Can you maybe explain something about contemplation?
Yeah. That's something that's good because when we sit, we contemplate the method. We are not, there's a term called cogitation, which means to think. We are not thinking of the method. We contemplate the method, meaning that we simply are aware that amongst all of these thoughts that are arising, our mind is focused on contemplating the method, meaning keeping it there at the forefront of the mind. We don't have to give it any name, do anything to it, put lights around it, circle it, or anything. Mind is just simply sitting with the method. It's just there. If the method is Huato, then it's there. If it's reciting the Buddha's name, it's there. If it's counting the breath, it's simply counting the breath. It is not engaged in, oh, that was a great breath, or, I may be forgetting the numbers or whatever, kind of engaging in this false cogitation. It's just simply there. It's contemplating. And when we contemplate through the senses, it's not limited to just simply sitting on the cushion. All the time, the mind is contemplating the senses. It's not attaching to the senses. It's contemplating what they're doing. And we understand how mind works. We see the mind in a way in which we know that precisely what's arising in mind. We know what's arising in a room, whether it's noisy, cool, hot, whatever it is. If somebody's coming in, somebody's going out, somebody's agitated, the mind is aware of all the things around you. Imagine if you could be aware of all these things in a workplace environment, then you'd be less likely to get into problems with people because you understand what you're going to do. There's a story I often tell that after a retreat, there were some people that came from a different state simply just to see me for a very short while after the retreat. They weren't participants, but they literally had a car caravan of about 3 cars that brought everybody there for me just to talk to them at the end of the retreat. And I was telling them that they had to be mindful, just like I'm telling you. And I said, you have to be careful through speech. You know, you have to measure your words. Be aware of your words. I said, if you call your boss an idiot, you're going to get fired. And everybody was like this, and they all stood up, and they they straightened up and they looked around, and I thought that was kind of unusual. And then they were driving me to another retreat I was going to after that, and one of the people, the leader, said, do you know the person that was sitting in the first row to your left? I said, yes, I remember. Well, he just called his boss an idiot this week, and he got fired. And I said, you know, if I came a week earlier, he'd still have his job. But causes and conditions are that way. We're mindful of that in terms of what we say to people, what we don't say to people. And we're careful about that. We understand this world. We're creating the world through body, speech, and mind. So this is the way it is. When you're sitting on the cushion, you're also creating the environment. What kind of an environment are you creating there? No, like watching some movie on the television, you've got your crumpled up bag of chips and cookies and half-eaten apple and everything surrounding you that shows you what you've been consuming for the last 2 hours. Or is it clean? Is it orderly? Is it neat? Is your mind resting? This is the secret. Is this resting? This resting is contemplation. So the mind is contemplating. There's no thought there. It's hard for us to understand that. But with practice, you can. That's the platform. So everything I've been telling you now is just a platform to jump off. But you have to do it. I can't do that for you. But it's worth it. There's peace there. There's tranquility. Less suffering, and more importantly, you're causing less suffering to other people because you're mindful of body, speech, and mind. They're always talking about that in the sutras and in the masters, talking about what are you doing in this moment? What are you putting in? Okay, so I was fed that question. But anyway, yes, we actually have 2. Go ahead, he would come up first.
For me, in retreat, the ego, the strongest role my ego takes in sitting is this kind of inner critic, saying, you're sitting so bad now, why are you? There is interview next sitting, what do you say? And this is my biggest problem, actually. I can deal with all kinds of thoughts, like, as long as I don't know it's okay, but this kind of inner critic is very strong for me.
It's yeah, and that's kind of like you being like a judge of the world, you know, and yourself is there, and it's just making a mess of the whole thing, you know, because you start listening to yourself, and um, I say sometimes, you know, your retreat's going bad. It's one of the 10 that I bring up as to when you know your retreat's going bad. And one of them is that you're even tired of yourself and listening to yourself come up. And so when you see this like this, it you have to overcome that. You have to illuminate that. If you can illuminate that, then it'll work. That's why to before one can drop self, we have to recognize self and recognize it as a habitual tendency that's arising. It's not you. That's the thing, is that you have to believe deep in your heart that's not you. You're not that person like that. You're sincerely trying to practice, but that ego is robbing you of tranquility. Why would you listen to it? It's like somebody saying, I'm going to take you to learn how to gamble, you know, and put $1,000 on red 53 or whatever it is. You put it, it's gone. Close, you got 35. That wasn't too far off. Put another $1,000 down. And you keep listening to this person until you're bankrupt. Why'd you listen to him? Hey, it wasn't my money I was betting. That was your money. You know, I don't have the problem, you have the problem. And it's like that, where the self is making it miserable for you in a retreat. And you feel so horrible, you know, because you're trapped on this cushion. Not only that, but you're trapped with this, I don't want to say a swear word, but you're trapped with this jerk that's on the cushion with you, and you can't get him to shut up. That's the worst. But if you understand that that's illusory, that's not you, that's habitual tendencies, there's liberation there. But you just can't listen to them, no matter how much they keep coming in and repeating it. It's terrible. No, when that happens, and you can get into a really bad cycle of having that happen, you just have to illuminate the mind, calm the mind. If necessary, do prostrations or bows on the side until you clear it out, and then come back and sit on the cushion. The big thing is to understand that there's remedies for it. Okay, so you don't have to sit there, you know, and listen to this fellow talk in your ear, you know, incessantly about what a stupid choice it was to come to the retreat. You brought the wrong person with you. You know, why did you invite the ego with you? That's like, some people can barely tolerate your ego, much less you. So I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I'm just kind of amplifying that so you can see it clearly. It's a good question, but you have to see that return to the method. Shifu used to always say, return to the method will protect you. What's the method? Resting the mind in the present moment, letting the mind look into mind. That's all you're doing. If you see the method is just a projection on mind. It's not changing. And it will work. It definitely will change the whole scenario. Okay? You had a question.
So it's less a question and more a little wish for the retreat.
You have to speak a little louder.
It's less a question and more a little wish for the retreat. Perhaps you have time to give some information to that. You have explained before that when we are sitting on the cushion and we have thoughts or preoccupation there, it's because we put them in our mind in daily life, and that we should put instead compassion. So
for me it's interesting to know how can I put more compassion in my daily life.
Via body, speech, and mind again, whatever you see, you convert it to wisdom. Okay? You moment to moment to moment, you have a choice. You can choose ego, you can choose vexations or desires or whatever, or you can choose the Buddha mind represented by compassion. So all the time, you're spreading a harmony in your environment. It's like you're a farmer and you're tilling around you, planting the seeds of compassion. You plant the seeds of compassion, lo and behold, you get compassion. And you get this pure land around you, literally this buffer zone safe that prevents you from the onslaughts of impressions of ego. So the ego cannot penetrate through because the ego has nothing to do with the Buddha. It is just simply a manifestation of something that was created in the Buddha mind through what they call defiled thinking, or adherence to this ignorance, which we call the ego, personality, or life and being. So when you understand that, what you do is you convert everything to that. You have a choice moment to moment to do that. I'll give you an example. This is a very, very simple example, but just something that happened to me today. I was in need of some medicine, and I went into a pharmacy and was explaining to them that I was running low of some medicine that I needed to take. And they were very kind. I was very polite with them and very smiling and listening, not pressuring them at all, explaining. And from my heart, I was extending it to the two people that were helping me. One of them was the pharmacist. And later I came back and she remembered me and right away went to get the medicine and bring it back to me. And so I was just talking to her and something very funny happened. She came around the counter and she just touched me like this because she wanted to have a contact because she felt so comfortable around me. It wasn't anything provocative. It was just simply that she wanted to feel that. So when one is very kind and understanding, people will feel that they want to get closer to you. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. And she couldn't control herself, that she just wanted to do that. And I understood why she did it, because I was exuding to her this care. As she's giving me care, I'm giving her care. And I am reciting for her and the other one to, that I will deliver them in another lifetime. So you create this oasis around you, and it serves as a buffer to keep the ego from coming in. Believe me, it will work. If you do that, it will work. And not only that, but as you begin to practice, you'll be surprised how far that buffer goes out. It can go out to the infinite. Okay? Do it that way. Something simple, so you just have that in your mind. You choose the Buddha and it'll work. Okay? No problem at all. Guarantee you it will work. Remember, Gilbert's guarantee. Any other questions? Yeah, see, now they're coming finally.
Thank you for the wonderful Dharma talk. It's really beneficial. I just got confused when you're using the rest in your mind.
Hold on. I thought a jet was landing outside. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. You mentioned we should rest the mind. And you didn't say we should rest our consciousness.
No, because you rest the mind, whatever's in the consciousness, we cannot suppress the consciousness. Those thoughts will naturally come up because you put them there. So they have a certain mind energy. what we do is we don't feed them. It's like, you know, how do you get rid of the stray cats on your back porch? Don't feed them. If you feed them, there'll be 3 more there in the next morning. You know, and then if you feel, oh, I feel sorry, then you have more and more, because you're giving the mind the okay, here's a green light. Everybody come in. All your vexations come in. And that's what we normally do, is we think in this way, and we don't understand what we're putting into mind. Simply illuminating the mind and choosing the Buddha is enough. We don't have to try to strike out the thoughts or to do anything aggressively against them. It isn't in that way that we operate. We operate in a very calm way, resting the mind. We know that those thoughts will go away sooner or later. You know, it's not going to stay there all the time. So we have faith in that. We have faith in mind, but we have to rest the mind at all times. Doesn't mean that you get a shot against any adversity. You know, even I'm here and I'm giving a Dharma lecture, I still can have a plane land next door, you know, or those sounds like that, but it's okay. It doesn't bother me. I know things like that happen. So it's all right. So you see that and you let it go. So when you let things go, then you're not giving them any more mind attention. The more you start letting the ego talk, the ego just comes in and decides to control. Give me the control of the wheel here. You know, I'm going to run you into the ground. You know, your legs are starting to hurt you. You know, your back. You're hungry. You're sleepy. Whatever. It'll do that. But if you rest the mind, you're aware of the arising of this mind. So to know the arising mind is the non-arising mind. So your non-arising mind will be able to see that these things are happening, and it just doesn't pay attention to it, doesn't give them any mind value. When you give something mind value, it will stay, and it will repeat. And if you have a deep emotion tied to it, it's guaranteed it's going to come back faster and harder. But if you let it go, then it's gone. You can't keep holding on to these, because then you're just this suffering juggler juggling all these suffering moments. What good is that? Why don't you choose liberation? Choose the Buddha. It's simple. So this is how you do it. Okay, you have to know how mind works, and then you can start figuring out how to get rid of the virus in the computer. The virus in the computer is you. It's you. I'm not the virus. Yes, you are. He starts to get scared. You need me. What, to make bad decisions, bad choices? No. You make a choice from Buddha, from wisdom. You will make good choices from that. The Buddha is not going to tell you, you know what you need is you need a very strong, another glass of wine, you know, and then you can go back to work from lunch, you know, or it'll say something stupid, but you believe it. But when your mind chooses the Buddha's not going to take a glass of wine before he goes back to work. You know, so you do as the Buddha does. Not bad. I wish I could do that all the time, but sometimes I forget where the Buddha is, and then I come back to being Gilbert again, and then I have a black belt in suffering. So anyway, okay, where are we at? We're almost there. We have time for 20 more questions. Okay. Any last questions? Okay, comments. Any comments? Anybody have any comments of what they learned or what they didn't learn? Oh, here's one.
I'm still confused. I'm just saying.
Oh, I'll get you after.
Oh,
She's,
sorry. Yes.
you're still confused.
Because And you have to bring up your wisdom, awareness.
Where did I get the cold stone in the water?
When you are really deep sitting, when you are really calm, and this seems, it's like you are not anymore in the surface, you are sink down, your body and your mind, everything. And that is no wisdom inside, there is no illumination. And that's why you need to bring up the energy to go up and to have this illumination. And the mind, at this moment, should be awareness. And then that, it's not resting. You should not resting the mind. That is my confusion with the words. I think this is not describable. It's not.
Yeah, it's your ego that's confused, because you don't want to sit like cold stone in water or dry wood. You know, one monk said that this was the way he was practicing, and his benefactor went up the mountain, you know, and because he's on a biguan, solitary retreat, and she burned his hut because it's not cold stone, dry wood. It is vibrant. So that's why I was saying, you don't go into a dark side, you make it vibrant. It can be vibrant. The awareness is incredible because it can be simultaneously aware of everything around you. Simultaneously, it's aware in this way. And without any protrusions, without any kind of thing that I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, whether the person blows their nose, somebody's taking a picture, whatever, the rustling, all of those things, they're all in a state of equanimity. The mind is aware of it, understands the things, but don't think in this way. To choose the Buddha is to choose wisdom. To choose wisdom is to illuminate the mind. So you're constantly illuminating the mind. It's the only way you can choose wisdom is by illuminating and saying, no, I'm not going to do this, because if I do this, then it's going to have this effect. If I just sit there try to avoid thought, that's not what Gilbert said. He said, let the thought go by. Just let the thought go by.
At that moment, there's no thought. But what I said is that you use the word rest in the mind. I think
Yeah.
it's opposite for me. It's raising up the energy of the mind. That is the problem. That is also.
You have more energy in resting than you do in creating tension. So when the mind is rested, the mind is very vibrant, and it can apply it in a proper way, and it's illuminating. The energy is illuminating your environment, and when it sees the environment, there's no inflow or outflow. What's in and what's out, and in the, let's say, what so-called external environment is illuminated as well as inside that illumination. And so it makes choices out of wisdom, but it is processing. It's very vibrant. It's not dead. It's not dead at all. It's very alive, very, very aware. There's a very strong vitality there that's going. It isn't your ego. It's not yourself. It is the power of the mind itself. One master, Master Chan, said, you have to derive power from your power. Derive power from your own internal power. So you have an own internal power. Why? Because you have Buddha mind. So you derive power from that. And then that power you use in the present moment to illuminate everything. So there's no sleeping on the job. It is just very awake and ready for anything that happens. Okay? Just kind of contemplate that and see. And if you start reading some of the sutras, you'll see that it'll come to you very quickly. Cause and conditions won't fail. You're going to read that. Okay? Okay, there was one last question. The final question.
I just want to say that at the beginning, when I started to practice, I wonder if it is karmic or what, but whenever I listen to the bell, I shed tears. And even when I listen to the chant, I shed tears. All the time, all the time.
What bell are you referring to?
The Buddhist bell, the Buddhist temple bell.
The big one that goes bong. Okay, not the tick tick ding. Tears of joy. Okay, go ahead.
And even myself, I couldn't understand why. Until, well, I keep on practicing, and gradually with time, I get over it. So I just wondered, that kind of phenomena, is that a kind of memory or karmic or whatever?
It is a combination of things. First of all, it's a good experience. Okay. Part of it comes from your past practice, that your mind is recalling the sincerity of your past practice. So you say, why am I crying? Why am I crying? Because in the past practice you had this. Part of it is an awakening in you of this resonance of the bell and the meaning of the resonance of the bell. So Master Shen Ying, he used to say that everything has a resonance, and that we have this resonance of the Buddha, and we have to attune to it. So when we have this resonance of the Buddha, and you kind of explain it like saying, what is this sound? You know, you could say it's Om, just like the bell. The bell is just that way. Boom. Right? And it's a resonance. It's the Buddha tone. And you're attuning to that tone. This tone in itself can bring to you closer to the Buddha. So it's very important. It's special. No. Do you do any kind of reciting the Buddha's name, Nyenpo?
Well, I would say that my family is Buddhist, but we never practiced. When I was a kid, I just followed my grandma, because my grandmother went often to the temple, and I went with her. But of course, I didn't understand anything.
Yeah, it's something that you can look into the practice of Nyenpo. That's reciting the Buddha's name. The reciting the Buddha's name is reciting the sound of the Buddha. It's much deeper than people think. We're just saying, respected Buddha, Nam Amitabha, Nam Amitabha, Nam Amitabha. There is a direct connection with the Amitabha Buddha when we recite. And so it is that same resonance. So it's something that you might want to just kind of look into a little bit and see if that will help you. But because of past practices in this lifetime and before, that's why you have this kind of a root. It's a good deep root. So make use of it in this lifetime. You have plenty of time still to look into that. So it's a kind of for you, it's a clear awakening. For her, it's a reawakening to what's going on. To kind of like a kick in the bottom, going, okay, let's get going with this. Might as well start practicing sincerely. There's something here for you. And so there's things like that happen to people. It's a very good experience. No, so you should be encouraged by that. Yes, you're in the right place. So even if you don't buy into all of this, all of you still have the ability to incorporate some of this wisdom into your daily life. I guarantee you it'll be a lot better than listening to that troublesome person that always comes up and has you pull out the plastic to see how far it can stretch. So anyway, okay. Thank you very much for listening. I know you're full of questions, but we'll see. All right. I appreciate you. Thank you.